Have you ever wondered if people receiving food assistance can actually buy prepared meals at restaurants? It's a question that sparks heated debate, and right now there's legislative action that could change everything. But here's what most people don't realize: this isn't just about fast food, it's about access, dignity, and survival for some of our most vulnerable citizens. Let me break down what's really happening, separate fact from fiction, and explain why this matters more than you might think. There's a provision in our food assistance system that allows certain recipients to purchase prepared, hot meals from approved restaurants. This isn't some new loophole or government oversight. It's been part of the law since the late 1970s. Why? Because lawmakers recognize something fundamental: not everyone has access to a kitchen. Think about it. If you're experiencing homelessness, where exactly are you supposed to cook that bag of rice or frozen chicken? If you're elderly and living alone with limited mobility, how do you safely operate a stove? If you're disabled and physically cannot prepare food, what are your options? This restaurant access program was designed specifically for these situations. It's meant to ensure that people without cooking facilities or the physical ability to prepare food can still access hot, nutritious meals. But here's the catch: it's not available everywhere, and it's far more limited than most people assume. First, states have to voluntarily choose to participate. The federal government doesn't mandate it. Then, within participating states, individual restaurants must apply and be approved. We're talking about a restaurant by restaurant, location by location approval process. Currently, fewer than a dozen states have activated this program. In some of those states, it's only available in specific counties or even just certain zip codes. In others, you might find only a handful of approved locations in the entire state. The approved restaurants range from well-known sandwich shops to burger chains, pizza places, and even some sit-down family restaurants. But again, just because a chain is approved doesn't mean every location accepts benefits. One address might participate, while another 3 blocks away doesn't. For someone trying to use this program, it can be incredibly confusing and frustrating. Imagine being elderly or disabled, finally finding a place that serves hot food only to discover that particular location isn't approved, but maybe the one across town is if you can get there. Let's address the misconceptions head on. Critics often paint a picture of abuse: large families feasting on fast food, taxpayers funding unhealthy eating habits, people gaming the system. The reality? Most users are individuals experiencing homelessness grabbing a modest meal, elderly people on fixed incomes buying something simple they can actually eat, disabled individuals who physically cannot cook for themselves getting necessary nutrition. The amounts spent are typically small. Food assistance benefits don't stretch far in any setting, and restaurants are generally more expensive than grocery stores. People aren't living it up, they're surviving. Interestingly, data shows that sandwich shops offering fresh options are among the most frequently used establishments. This makes sense when you think about it. These places offer customizable meals with vegetables, proteins, and somewhat healthier options than stereotypical fast food. Recent figures show that over a 2-year period, approximately $500 million in food assistance was spent through this restaurant program across participating states. Sounds like a lot, right? But context matters. That's spread across 9 states, millions of eligible recipients, and 2 full years. When you break it down per person, per meal, it's actually quite modest. And the vast majority of that spending happens in just one state with a large population, statewide program availability, and an extensive list of approved vendors. In many other participating states, the numbers are minimal because the program is so limited. We're talking about maybe a dozen approved restaurants serving select neighborhoods. Now, new legislation has been introduced that would fundamentally reshape this program. The proposed changes wouldn't eliminate it entirely, and that's important to understand because many news reports have gotten this wrong. Here's what the bill would actually do. It would maintain access for homeless, elderly, and disabled individuals, but remove automatic eligibility for spouses unless they also meet specific criteria. Some states already have similar restrictions, so this might not change much on the ground. The major shift would be removing most chain restaurants and quick service establishments from eligibility altogether. Instead, the bill would redirect participants toward grocery stores with prepared food sections, hot bars, or deli counters. There's also a new requirement that meals include at least one fruit or vegetable and one protein source. Additionally, states would need to submit annual reports detailing program usage and spending. Here's where things get interesting. While the stated goal is improving nutrition, there's a question of whether this approach would actually achieve that. Grocery store delis and hot bars vary widely in what they offer. Many feature fried chicken, pizza, macaroni and cheese, and other items that aren't necessarily more nutritious than a sandwich with vegetables. Meanwhile, sandwich shops that focus on fresh ingredients would be excluded simply because they're classified as quick service establishments. There's also a practical concern. Grocery stores with prepared food sections aren't evenly distributed. In some communities, especially rural areas or food deserts, access could actually decrease under this new framework. And let's not forget the dignity factor. There's already stigma around using food assistance. Some people find it easier to discreetly use benefits at a quick service restaurant than to navigate a grocery store deli during peak hours. This legislation is still in its early stages. It needs to move through committees, pass both legislative chambers, and receive executive approval. That's a long road with many opportunities for amendments, delays, or failure. But this isn't happening in a vacuum. There are multiple proposals circulating right now that would restrict food assistance in various ways. Some states want to limit purchases of specific items like soda or candy. Others are adding new work requirements. One state is just now launching its restaurant program, while this federal legislation threatens to change the rules. The timing raises questions. Is this coordinated? Are we seeing a broader shift in how we approach food assistance as a society? This debate touches on deeper questions about poverty, dignity, and government support. Should we focus on giving people maximum flexibility and choice, or should we impose nutritional standards? Where's the line between guidance and control? There's also the question of trust. Do we trust people receiving assistance to make reasonable decisions about their own meals, or do we need top-down rules about what they can and cannot eat? And what about the practical realities of poverty? When you're homeless, getting any hot meal can be a victory. When you're elderly and isolated, having a familiar restaurant nearby can be a lifeline. When you're disabled, accessibility matters more than whether the establishment is classified as fast food or a grocery deli. As this legislation moves forward, or doesn't, several things are worth watching. First, will other states expand or contract their restaurant programs in anticipation of federal changes? Second, how will the affected populations respond? Will advocacy groups push back? Will there be public testimony from people who rely on this program? Third, what happens to the restaurants currently participating? Many have invested in systems to accept benefits and serve this population. Do they just lose that customer base overnight? And finally, the big question: will this actually improve nutrition outcomes, or will it just make life harder for people who are already struggling? Whether you use food assistance or not, whether you've ever heard of this restaurant program or not, this affects all of us. These are policy decisions about how we treat vulnerable members of our community. If you have thoughts on this, whether you think restaurant access is essential or problematic, whether you believe the proposed changes would help or hurt, your voice matters. Contact your representatives, share your perspective, vote with these issues in mind. And if you're someone who relies on this program, stay informed, know your rights, understand what's being proposed, and don't be afraid to speak up about how these changes would affect your life. This isn't just about hamburgers or sandwiches. It's about independence, accessibility, and dignity for people facing real challenges. Whatever your position, let's make sure this conversation is based on facts, compassion, and genuine understanding of what's at stake. Thanks for engaging with this important topic. Stay informed, stay involved, and let's keep pushing for policies that actually serve the people who need them most.